Like I said earlier, fingerprints only appear on the outer side of the glass. So be sure to keep that in mind. And I've tried various methods and found out that it's best to use Corona layered MTL. So by shifting this curve, you can change the influence of this map on your scene. And also visibility of the fingerprints. Hi everybody, it's Render.courses, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create fingerprints and other sorts of imperfections on various objects. So we have this simple scene and we can see an HDRI map in the background. And also a glass with fingerprints that I've created. Now I know it looks a bit unrealistic at the moment, but we need to learn how to create these imperfections. And I'll be using Corona 9, but you can do the same in other Corona versions or in V-Ray, doesn't matter. So the main thing is that you know how to create a material of this sort. And we'll take Corona Physical MTL and we'll assign it to the glass. The glass is already selected and we'll assign material to selection. We've created this default material. And now let's go ahead and try to figure out where to put fingerprints and think about other imperfections. So if we assign a material and apply the default UVW map, the fingerprints will be both inside and outside the glass. But in real life, fingerprints only appear on the outer side of the glass, well, depending on how you grab it. Because this is where people touch it with their hands typically, so we need to remember that. So we'll need a texture map with fingerprints, and you can find one on Google. Very fast and easy, but I prefer to use Quixel Bridge. They have a vast collection of ready-to-use fingerprint textures, as well as various other textures. So head over there and search for finger or print. Finger and print on their website, and you'll discover a lot of fingerprint samples. So what we need now is we need to select the right map. Now let's see what we've got here. Now I don't want a texture with many fine prints, so let's go for a more sweeping fingerprints, maybe with a blurry effect. Now of course your choice depends on the task that you have in front of you. I think this material will do fine for our particular purposes, and I've already saved it, so now I just click export to 3D Max, and then we'll go back inside the program, and once again you can find textures like this on Google as well. So you just type in fingerprints texture map and you get a whole list of various results. Now before we start creating the material, I'd like to invite you to our big training course. It's a 3D visualization course, and these amazing exterior and interior renders have been created by our students, and I highly recommend you sign up for our program. You'll find a link in the description to this video. The program is called Render.courses, and it's available on go.render.courses. Join us to become a professional 3D visualizer. All right, well, let's get started with our material. So we've imported the material from Quixel. Here we have our default material and its assigned texture. Let's select the material and delete it. And now let's see how we can apply the texture. And like I said earlier, fingerprints only appear on the outer side of the glass. So be sure to keep that in mind. And I suggest we do the following. Let's split the material into two parts, the inner part and the outer part. So this means that we're gonna use a two-sided material, and it will have two IDs. So we go to General tab, Multi-Sub Object, and drag it to the material editor. We have 10 submaterials here, and actually we don't need that many, so let's reduce the number of submaterials to 2. So there will be 2 submaterials, one material inside the glass and the other one outside of it. It will be all glass, but the inner glass should be without fingerprints and the outer glass will have fingerprints. And I think it's a pretty easy way to achieve the desired effect. And it will also look good. So if you choose to, say, use Chrome and then decide to add fingerprints to your Chrome sink or Chrome tab, you won't need several submaterials. In that case, you can only use one material because Chrome is non-transparent. Okay, now we need to split our glass into 2 materials. So we select the glass and go to the Modify tab. And we have a UVW map assigned here already. So let's delete it for now. And I click on Element Selection, select the entire glass, and assign it to assign ID number 1 to it. This will be the outer side of the glass. And now we need to select the inner side. So we click on Vertex and select the central point. And now with Ctrl press, we switch to polygon selection. The inner polygon have been selected. Next we click Grow and expand the selection of the inner side. Next we'll set ID number 2. It's a very simple procedure. Now our glass has 2 material IDs, the inner ID and the outer ID. So now we assign our multi-sub material to the glass to see how it looks. The glass is now red because we haven't assigned any materials to it. We assign Corona Physical MTL to ID number 1. And as you can see, the outer side has turned gray. Next on the list is the inner side. So let's create a default glass material that we'll be using as a base. We'll do a double click on our material. Let's see what settings we've got here. So we have the roughness setting. And to make our glass glossy, we'll set it to 0. The glass has reflections. Also, our material is non-metal. So we see non-metal selected here. You can also use Corona Legacy MTL. But this setup method is a little outdated, so I recommend using Corona Physical MTL. Next, our material should be transparent, so we'll set refraction to 1. And our material has become transparent. The inner side of the glass is still red because we haven't yet assigned material to it, but the glass select gives us an idea of how it looks. Also, any glass has its absorption, which means that your glass object has thickness and it will have a light shade. So we scroll down and find the Media Option tab, where we select a dark green shade, a mix of gray and green. And this is the color of glass if you hold it against light. Now distance, the default value is 0. Let's change it to 10. And we can see Now the glass has gained a greenish shade. Of course, this makes the glass look rather cheap, but it's okay. We've created cheap, ordinary glass. Let's set distance to 20 centimeters to make the greenish shade more delicate. Crystal glass, for example, hardly has any absorption at all. But in this case, we're creating ordinary glass. Now let's copy this material and assign it to the second ID. Select the glass material, keep shift pressed, and drag it here. We copied the material and now we link it to ID 2. And the glass has become fully transparent. Now we're going to work on the outer side of the glass. It's this material right here. Let's check to make sure. Change refraction to 0. That's good. This is the right material. We set refraction back to 1 and get started. Earlier in this video, we imported this fingerprint texture, and some of you might be wondering why not link this map to roughness and get the fingerprints effect. You see, after we applied the texture, the glass has become matte. And this is because we haven't yet assigned UVW map coordinates. So let's select UVW map from the modifier list. We already have some texture, but we need to set up the coordinates. So let's move material editor to the second screen. We're using planar mapping. Seeing that our glass has a cylindrical shape, we select cylindrical here and check cap. Now we simply need to correctly put this cylinder onto the glass. Rotate the glass around its axis, and we select Gizmo from the modifier list. Let's figure out from which viewpoint we should rotate it. All right, that should do it. Now we just click Fit. And as you can see, the UVW map has been positioned onto the object. So let's go back to perspective view to see how the material looks. But adding the fingerprint texture map to roughness is not enough. And I've tried various methods and found out that it's best to use Corona layered MTL. This material will be a little complex, so make sure to follow the process. If you get how to do this, you won't have any trouble setting up a material like this, or even a more complex one. So let's unlink our map from roughness for now. And we need to split this material into 2 parts. So now let's think logically. What are these fingerprints made of? And what is this material made of? The material is made of glass, and also some substance that covers the glass in the form of fingerprints. This could be dirt and other sorts of unpleasant stuff. So what we need to do is we should create 2 materials and blend them together. So let's create another material. And let's go for Corona Physical MTL. This will be the material for the fingerprints, traces that are left on the glass. Open preview window to see the preview. And for now we can leave it gray to be able to see the effect. Next we need to blend these 2 materials. How do we do this? We can use Corona Layered MTL and we need to add it between our basic glass material and our multi material. See, the material is becoming more complex. I select base material, and what have we got here? We have Corona layered MTL that uses Corona physical MTL as its base material, and the second layer, which is layer 1, is this gray material with fingerprints. We'll link it to layer 1. We have two materials, which is base material, which is glass, and layer 1, which is fingerprints. And they're supposed to blend, but this hasn't happened yet because we need to assign a mask that will define their blending. As a mask, we'll be using this fingerprint texture. We'll link it to mask 1 because we have layer 1, and the blending for layer 1 should be defined by this mask exactly. Okay, so we'll link this texture to mask 1. Something has changed. The glass has turned grayish. And why did that happen? That's because blending depends on the brightness of the mask applied. The lighter the mask, the more visible the layer becomes. The darker the mask, the less visible the layer. So our mask is somewhat grayish, and the fingerprints are barely visible. So everything looks sort of gray. So we need to add more contrast. To do that, we can use an inbuilt editor that every map has. We do a double click on this map and click the Output tab. Then we check Enable Color Map. And what we have here is a curve editor. If we add a point onto the curve and then shift it down here, it's as if we were removing some of the color. So the grayness is gone, and now the image is black, and the fingerprints have become more visible. So by shifting this curve, you can change the influence of this map on your scene, and also visibility of the fingerprints. So for instance, to make the fingerprints less apparent, we need to lower the curve. See? They're almost gone now. And we've done everything that we needed. Surely we can continue fine-tuning the material. So let's, for example, make the fingerprints more pronounced, more visible. And we can diminish the size of these fingerprints by simply editing the map. So click the Corona bitmap tab and change tiling to 2x2. The map styling has increased while the size of the fingerprints has diminished. The map pattern has become finer. Let's edit the material of the fingerprints. Let's make it darker. Add some yellow. You can even add a shade of red if you want to, or orange. Okay, good. Also, we can fine-tune the base glass by linking this map to base roughness. So we see the fingerprints have become more visible because they've got some roughness now. The effect is too strong actually. So here we have the map linked to roughness. And to change its properties, we're going to use the map called color correction. We add it here, in between. And in the settings, we switch to advanced and change gamma to 0.5. And this will take away some of the roughness. And this is how you can edit this material. As you can see, it's a bit complex. We have a multi-sub material that is made of two materials. One is the ordinary glass, and a more complex glass with fingerprints here. It's applied onto the outer side of the glass. This material is multi-layered. The first layer is glass, second is fingerprints, whose blending is defined by this map. So you can use any map you want. It's up to you. And that's it for this lesson. Hope you have no problems whatsoever with this material setup. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.